When it comes to finances, no two journeys are the same, and the differences might surprise you. Stay with us as we dive into the unspoken chapters of women and money, the twists, turns, and truths that don't show up in spreadsheets.
The information presented on this program is believed to be factual and up to date at the time of its recording. We do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the topics covered. Discussions and answers to questions do not involve the rendering of investment advice, personalized or otherwise, but are limited to the dissemination of general information. A professional advisor should be consulted before implementing any of the options presented. Measured Wealth Private Client Group is registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission and only transacts business in states in which it is registered or exempt from registration.
Welcome to Financial Futures, a Measured Wealth podcast powered by the team at Measured Wealth in beautiful Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Each episode, we're bringing you fresh insights on retirement, investing, and everything you need to take control of your financial future. Whether you're preparing for retirement or already living it, we're here to help you make informed choices with confidence. To kick off today's conversation, here's your host, certified financial planner and chartered financial analyst, George Zaharopoulos.
Today, I'm speaking with Alejandra Borge, certified financial planner. Alejandra is a wealth advisor at Measured Wealth and resides in Miami, Florida. Alejandra is passionate about finance as well as helping women plan for the challenges that can take place at different stages of life. Alejandra, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, George. What an honor to be here.
All right.
In sunny Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Well, this is exciting. Today's going to be a unique conversation. We're talking women and money and the challenges that they face throughout life, and really everyone, couples as well, that face. But Alejandra, I want to put it out to you first. What are some of the topics that don't get talked about that women in particular, as well as couples, should consider in their financial plan?
So a lot of the times, and as I started becoming an advisor, I've realized that a lot of the conversations are geared toward men and money and accumulating assets. But what about women? What about their counterparts, their spouses? They need to be heard too. I think a lot of the conversation gears towards performance, asset allocation, and all the masculine conversation around wealth planning. And here come I, very passionate about women and they becoming financially literate and educating themselves. And I've come to see the fact that women don't really talk with their advisors about caretaking, career gaps, fertility treatments that often cost a lot of money that should be budgeted into a financial plan. Caring for aging parents, that's also a thing that is a burden in the life cycle of a woman.
Why do you think a lot of advisors shy away from these topics?
Because the conversations are hard. They're not nice. They're uncomfortable. They stir the pot. I think I pride myself as being an advisor that likes stirring the pot. I like the uncomfortable conversations and being able to really help my clients with what they value, what the challenges they're going to be facing. And it's not always going to be rainbows and butterflies. It's not always going to be a 30% performance at the end of the year. So as an advisor, I've come to realize in client conversations that you can have your quantitative aspect as an advisor, but also your qualitative. Not always in a client meeting or in a quarterly review, your client wants to talk about performance and so forth. They sometimes want to talk about the challenges that they're facing in their marriage while trying to grow their families, taking care of their aging parents, thinking about a career break.
Mm-hmm. I agree. These conversations can be a little uncomfortable, and quite frankly, I'm guilty of not bringing up some of these topics in conversations because in the end, I really don't want to offend anyone. But do you think we run the risk of bringing up some topics that some people don't want to talk about?
I think that's where you have to get your 2 cents in reading the room.
Yeah.
A lot of the times you start introducing topics and the clients are abrasive to answering or to helping you out develop the conversation, and that's where you have to take a step back and maybe it wasn't the right time. Mm-hmm. But start introducing the topics, start introducing the conversations, and at some point it's like a giving tree. It'll come back to you.
Great. Let's break this up into some different stages. So in the early stage, there could be a career pause. Maybe it's for maternity leave or taking care of a family. What's the impact here?
Well, we've been seeing in stats that an average of five-year career break for child caring costs about $500,000. That's not only loss of income, annual income, but also loss of retirement savings. So that already puts us in the back end. We're already playing catch up. 5 years of missed income that we can be contributing and accumulating over our life cycle.
Yeah, I read somewhere where 1 in 4 women exit the workforce after having a baby, and only a small percentage of those women after 5 years actually return to the workforce. And I found that quite interesting.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. A lot of them return back to the workforce, or others just, we've seen an influx, a lot of women becoming entrepreneurs. So maybe it's just being quantified, the annual income, on a different way. After you have a baby or you start growing your family, you want flexibility. And those are the aspects that you have to factor into a financial plan. Flexibility. Now, your conversation doesn't revolve around numbers and spreadsheets and everything, but it's what I mentioned earlier, it's qualitative. It's like what really means to you. What are the 4 types of capital, and what's the legacy you want to leave behind? Do you want to be a present parent, or do you want to be working, your 9 to 5 in your corporate job? It depends what you want. And just hearing out your client and understanding what they truly want from the core is what really allows you as an advisor to be successful in retaining that client.
Do you think women in general kind of have this decision to make between career and family? Or can they balance both at the same time? Or do they try to, is it about maybe saying right now I'm for this, and, maybe a little later I'll be for that?
Oh, I don't know, George. This is quite a disruptive question. We've seen a rise in stay-at-home dads. So that means that women want to get out there and continue hustling, as we say. So, yeah, I do see women wanting to return back to the workplace. We want to feel accounted for. We want to grow our earnings, too. We're not here in the 21st century trying to settle for a joint account,
Right.
where
Right.
we don't understand where the money's coming in and out. Like, where's the transparency there? We want financial transparency. We want financial education. We want to understand that we also can be able to support and help out in our household.
I think you brought up an interesting stat before, too. Costing up to $500,000 to raise a child. That's between, up to age, 18 or 20 or something like that?
No, just the first 5 years.
First 5 years?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's not incorporating childcare costs, which in today's age.
Yeah, I was going to say I can attest to the rising cost, but that's a lot. So, all right, well, let's move on to, the second stage, which is, so in the middle stage, women tend to be the CFO for aging parents while still raising children. So what's going on here? What's the toll?
I'll speak for the Hispanic community, which is an issue I always bring up. The first thing I ask when I'm trying to understand the values of a family and the values of my client in front of me is ask them, the first thing they always come and ask me is I just came here to ask for financial advice because I want to leave my kids with something. They want to leave a legacy, and it's usually monetary. And I ask them, okay, cool. You want to leave a legacy. You want to leave some assets behind for your kids. But what about you? Have you started accumulating assets? Have you thought about your retirement? And the first thing they answer is, no, that's why I'm here. My follow-up question is just a quick laugh and be like, do you know about the oxygen mask theory? Of course, it's not very common. I'm like, when you get on a plane, the first thing they tell you is put your mask on first before you try and save the person next to you. And that's exactly how I approach this conversation is, why don't we focus on accumulating your assets, growing them, make sure you're on autopilot so you can be able to put the oxygen mask on your kids. And the one thing I share with my family and one thing I share in general is always the best legacy you can leave behind is not a burden of someone having to be taking care of you. I say that to my parents. I say that to any adult that always bring this conversation up of legacy. So it's very important to take care of yourself first.
Yeah, and spending time on raising children and taking care of aging parents, that can take you time out of the workforce, take someone out of the workforce where they're earning money and putting away retirement savings. So all of that really needs to be factored into the plan.
I would say, George, also, let's not even go for child caring. What about, growing your family? Fertility treatments, each cycle costs about 15 to 20K. More often than not, women are needing more than one cycle. So that's also something that's not being factored into financial planning. Like, hey, I need to stash away $50K or so for fertility treatments because I want to start having kids. So even before thinking about childcare, even before thinking about a career gap, is like, how are you going to budget for this? How are we planning ahead of time? So whenever this occurs in your life, it's not going to be a burden for you.
So this conversation can really start even before you have children, talking to people about what their plans are, what their hopes, their expectations, their dreams are, and then incorporating, what the cost of some treatments like that might be, as well as what the costs of raising a family are today.
Right. And usually this conversation, when you ask the client when they first come on board, is like, oh, what do you want in life? They're like, oh, I want to buy a home. Okay, a home, but do you want one or do you need one? And it's like digging deeper and trying to understand why they want to accomplish what they want to accomplish.
Yeah. And I particularly find this interesting, too, with aging parents, because often it could be the daughter or a daughter-in-law that might take care of aging parents. And that doesn't mean that a son or a son-in-law isn't taking part. But I just found it interesting that there was a stat out there about hours spent between a daughter versus a son and taking
Yes.
care of aging parents.
So I was, in reading, I came across this stat. It was like, on average, daughters spend 12 hours or more a month caring for their aging parents versus sons only spend 5 hours. So it's all about recognizing the hidden ways of unequal dynamics that show up every day in family life also.
And finally, the hardest stage, potentially, widowhood and divorce. So, Alejandra, how can women prepare emotionally and financially for something we all hope that never happens but often does?
Having the difficult conversations in your marriage, asking for financial transparency, understanding while you guys are still married and both are alive, where the incomes are coming from, how your trust structure is, how your estate planning, how does that flow? Who's the beneficiary? Who's the grantor? Who's the trustee? Who can I reach out to? Who's my financial advisor? Does my husband have way more than one financial advisor? If anything were to happen tomorrow, where can I go and hunt for all the accounts we have? Or how do I start taking care of my financial life when my spouse is now no longer here?
Overall, participating in the financial planning process.
Right.
It's great when both spouses participate and go through the planning process. So.
Oh, yeah. I love that aspect, that part of financial planning, because the first few meetings, their goals are, you see them kind of separated. And after conversation, you realize that, it takes conversation and opening up and even bringing up like tough conversations for the couple, for them to start reuniting and getting in synchrony with each other.
This particularly also affects their finances in ways such as Social Security. 7 out of 10 married women will at some point become a widow. And, what that means is for Social Security, if their spouse's Social Security is higher, they can reach out and get a higher or a stepped up benefit for Social Security. Similar for marriages that end in divorce. I saw a stat recently, too, that mentioned about 40 to 50% of marriages end in divorce, or first-time marriages, I should say. But there again, too, that affects a lot. It affects the income in the household. It affects Social Security benefits down the road. So all of this really needs to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, not even divorce per se, because hopefully they stay together forever. But widowhood, I think it's probably one of the most difficult life's milestones of a woman's life, and just being able to understand, having an advisor that holds the woman's hand through this out would be really nice. I had a client who actually became a widow, and I remember a few months after she widowed, she came to the office with a pack of folders, like a huge pack of folders. And I'm like, oh, what is that? And she's like, oh, all the folders my husband left behind. And I'm like, oh, okay. So there we were, we were playing detective and, helping her throw away papers, keeping the folders, something that has nothing to do with financial literacy or financial planning. But it was very important for the spouse. So just being there, holding your client's hand is very important.
Agree. And, I think the bottom line here is don't shy away from these conversations. Bring up some of these things, even though it might feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, 100%. Especially now that it's been going around, in different newsletters and different articles that the great wealth transfer, that women are about to get passed down over $3 trillion in assets. So I was reading earlier this week that most of those assets, because they're being held in women's hands now, they're going to be going to philanthropy. So that's a whole other aspect that we can continue uncovering in a woman's life that is different than a male's.
Yeah, and I see that. I see something common with spouses. One spouse understands the financial plan, where another spouse might not, so they feel comfortable about having a third-party financial advisor involved.
Right.
Whereas if there wasn't a financial advisor involved, and all of these decisions were now left to one person who wasn't, completely involved in that process, they might become overwhelmed, make some decisions that might negatively impact their situation.
Right. And it's also about teaching the next generation. So an advisor can help you teach the next generation, teach your kids what dad and mom have. That's also important. Introducing the subject early on so they become adults that know about, financial education.
That's great. Alejandra, if you had to give women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s one piece of advice, what would it be?
That's a tough one, George. So many. But what I would say one of the most important ones is don't shy away from finding an advisor that just gets you or wants to get you. Find an advisor not because their fees are low, because their performance is great, but more so because they get you. They're holding your hand. They're an advocate for your growth. They're going to stick with you through thick and thin, how we say. So that's my number one piece of advice. Yeah.
What should people know about you that they can't read on your bio?
Oh, my God. What
About your favorite food?
I like Mediterranean food a lot. So a lot of fish, seafood.
All right. How do you take your coffee?
Black with a little creamer. Little tiny bit.
And your favorite vacation spot?
Oh, I don't have one, but probably by the beach. Yeah. Most definitely.
All
Has to be sunny, beach.
That's great. Alejandra, before we wrap things up today, if someone has questions, how can they reach out to you?
Sure, George. You could reach out to me via email at aborge, ABORGE, @measuredwealth.net. Or you can also find me on Instagram in my handle at mis.millones, where I share a lot of financial content, financial literacy education content in Spanish with a little kick, with a little sass.
And how would you spell millones?
That's at MISS.millones, MILLONES.
Well, just wanted to conclude with money isn't lived in neat boxes. For women, finance is often bent around life events nobody prepares you for. If you're listening and thinking, my advisor has never talked to me about this, maybe it's time to find one who does. Alejandra works with women who want clarity and an advocate who just gets it. Reach out because your financial plan should reflect your actual life, not just the numbers. Alejandra, thank you again for joining me today, and thanks everyone for tuning in to Financial Futures, a Measured Wealth podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an update. Want to learn more or get in touch? Head over to measuredwealth.net, where you'll find prior episodes, helpful planning guides, and more. You can also call us at 603-431-1444 or email at info@measuredwealth.net. That's info@measuredwealth.net. Thanks again for listening, and remember, the future will someday be the present.